There can be no hiding it now. Any and all views that go against the totalitarian left will be silenced, regardless of whether or not those views violated any policy. This movement that defies our First Amendment rights is led by a growing uptick in Marxism rotting America's higher education. Back in 2016, Campus Reform wrote, Professors Joshua Dunn of the University of Colorado and John A. Shields of Clermont McKenna College discovered about 18% of social scientists in the United States self-identify as Marxists, compared to only about 5% who identify as conservatives, and that was pre-Trump administration.
You know, sure, maybe there's a couple more lefties than you'd expect, but it's having no meaningful impact on our ability to have serious discourse.
That would be false. In a study, gender studies, for example, the field is defined by a set of principles that most conservatives wouldn't agree with. For example, the fashion now is intersectionality. And you will find many departments now, but especially gender studies, explicitly saying we are committed to intersectional analysis of society, and that means they view American society as a matrix of oppression. There is a fallacy at the heart of this theory, which is that ostensibly it's trying to discourage sexism, racism, classism, but to discourage it, it practices them. Everything that the intersectional feminists say that the patriarchal oppressor does, to them, that they are excluded, silenced, marginalized, otherized, they actually do that, they try to do that to the guilty, sinful, male privileged elite. And so you have a lot on the campus now, a lot of very ugly situations.
Recently, a team of George Washington University researchers released a paper last month which demands the mass banning of conservatives on social media and the reconstruction of a COINTELPRO-esque infiltration of so-called hate groups. The term hate groups has morphed into a definition of any group the ADL and Silicon Valley deem counter to their globalist vision for the United States. And now the Federal Election Committee, led by liberal chairwoman Ellen Weintraub, is summoning Facebook, Google, and Twitter to a meeting on September 17th to address digital disinformation amid concerns that new forms of Russian-style social media manipulation will target the 2020 election, according to Politico. The Politico article goes on to reveal the event will address growing concerns about homegrown disinformation too, as the Russian narrative twists in the wind. Apparently it is now all hands on deck in a full-blown censorship rollout ahead of the 2020 election, which is already sizing up to be stolen by the Democrats.
And when I have to explain the Electoral College, I always get this kind of perplexed look.
It's like a tennis match, and if you win the set, then you get all the points. And
then they say, but why do people accept that? And what I have historically said is, well, in the end, it usually doesn't matter. Historically, most elections, the person who wins the Electoral College is also the person who wins the popular vote, so everybody's happy. But of course, more recently, that hasn't been happening all the time. And I worry that just like these other countries the people from other countries were confused about it, that people in our own country will come to feel that the result is not legitimate. There is no evidence of rampant voter fraud in 2016 or really in any previous election. People have studied this. Academics have studied this. Lawyers have studied this. The government has studied this. Democrats have studied this. Republicans have studied this. And no one can find any evidence of rampant voter fraud, either historically or particularly in the 2016 elections. I think it is damaging to our democracy to spread information like that if there is no proof. Now, if there is proof, then we really need to be taking action about that. These are serious allegations.
88-year-old Irvin Miniszewski of Loveland died on September 2011. 6 weeks after his death, a vote was cast in his name.
We did find a single voter that did vote, a deceased voter that did vote, unfortunately.
So a dead person voted?
Dead person voted, yep.
The same records that still showed Emily as a qualified voter for this coming November 2nd election recorded her as actually voting in the presidential elections 2 years ago. But that's impossible because she was cremated 2 months before the election.
your vote gets discounted because they come in with a burqa on it and they can vote. People think, it's a liberal thing to do, but I take my vote seriously. And I don't want 10 other people coming in negating my vote by voting for the other candidate when they're not even registered voters.
Well, that video you just witnessed was the New York City Democrat Board of Election Commissioner admitting to systemic voter fraud. Voters are bussed from one polling station to another to vote multiple times. That's what you just saw.
5 boroughs, Staten Island results, Manhattan results, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens. All of these votes are placed in a black box. This black box is unaccountable, untestable, privately run software from the 2 companies that you have hired to count our votes. So when the votes come out of this black box, they do not reflect the New York City or the national votes. In 22 primaries, the votes have shifted in 20 of them. The exit polling data in New York State shifted 12%. A shift of 2% is fraud.
Why is Ellen Weintraub's seemingly harmless rhetoric such a problem, you might ask? The FEC is supposed to simply enforce foreign influence in our elections, not explore the censorship of Americans' free speech. You may contact the Federal Election Committee at 1-800-424-9530 from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time to exercise what is left of your Bill of Rights. Operators are standing by. John Bound reporting.